Can't really see my t-shirt, can you? Today, a Necron player who hasn't played Dark Eldar since 7th edition reviews the Drukhari Codex. And it's coming right up.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. And if this is the first time you've watched one of my videos, well, hi, I'm Nick, and this is a Necron based channel. However, I do have more armies than just Necrons, and I've been recently trying to feature them on the channel in some of my battle reports. My main gaming buddy Richard from CM Wargames, link to his channel in the description below, he's been playing my Necrons and I've been playing some of my other armies. So far I've played Tyranids and also Eldari, and today, well, we're going to talk about Drukhari, because I do actually have one of these armies as well. You'll always be my favourite. Don't worry. Don't worry. Now, first thing is first. Drukhari or Dark Eldar? Let me know in the comments box below. Okay, so first of all, a little backstory. How did I get into Dark Eldar? Well, picture yourself in 2016 and a YouTube challenge that came up in your subscription feed. It was the £25 army challenge, to make an army as big as you can for £25. I thought, that sounds like a good idea, and I don't have a Dark Eldar army. I have an Eldar army and I like the Dark Eldar aesthetics. I thought it'd be pretty cool to join in this challenge. So I made a video about this challenge, and I had a fantastic subscriber base back then. Well, I still do now. Forget that. Now, I've always had a lot of support on the channel, and my subscriber base was no different back then. I got a lot of messages of people that wanted to send me some Dark Eldar miniatures for this challenge, and I bought some on eBay as well. I got the best deals that I could, and I built up an army. I got around 1,500 points with my first £25, thanks to the fantastic donations that I had from everyone. So I decided to do the challenge again. So I did another £25 challenge, and I managed to get around 700 points. This, of course, was back in 7th edition. So I had 2,200 points of Dark Eldar, and it only cost me £50. As you can imagine, I had a lot of old miniatures, and I didn't necessarily have the most competitive miniatures at the time, but I didn't really care about that. This was a different challenge, and it was the same year that Warboss Tay, another YouTuber here, I'll link you up to his channel in the description below, he had one of his painting challenges on that year, and I decided to paint my Dark Eldar for the challenge, and the challenge was paint something in 1 month, and I did succeed in painting my whole army in a month. Now, I went as fluffy as I could with this army. I got inspired by Star Trek because I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and at the time I was watching Star Trek Voyager, and in series 1 and 2 we have a faction called the Kazon, and they really reminded me of the old school warriors, where they had sort of their hair sort of everywhere. And I decided to base my army around the Kazon from Star Trek. So I painted them very similar to how they looked. I also did the same hair colouring, just to really tie in stuff. And then I used the Kazon language symbols, and I freehanded those onto my miniatures to give me some extra detail. The paint scheme is pretty simple, to be fair. I had to paint the whole army in a month. I did around 4 to 6 hours every day of painting, and I'm really happy and proud of what I did. And the whole army fits into a Games Workshop case, and I do not plan on expanding the army. That's my army, built for £50 and painted in 1 month. So that is the little backstory of my army. So now it's time to have a look at this new book. Well, it's not new, is it? It's been out a while, but it's new to me. Now, as I said, this all happened in 7th edition, and I only actually played 4 games with this army in 7th, 2 500-point games a 750 point game and a 1000 point game, and that was it. So yeah, it's been a long time, and I'm pretty sure that the codex which I had was actually called Dark Eldar and not Drukhari back then. Obviously a name change because of copyright reasons, but to me there'll always be Dark Eldar. Now, of course, this codex has a lot of fluff in it at the beginning of the book. Its layout is very similar to the other codices which I've reviewed on the channel, and yeah, we're going to go straight really to the rules because of course that is the main thing that we want to look at. And the first thing which is very notable is the codex seems to be split into three, I don't know what they are, like sub-factions, or they've split them up into three sort of types of armies. So of course you've got the Cabal, the Witch Cult and the Homunculus Coven, which means you've got some restrictions, and like I said, I've only got a certain amount of models. So for example, I've only got 2 HQs, I've got 1 Archon and 2 Homunculus, so I don't have the HQ which unlocks the Witch Cult. Now I have 30 witches, I also have one of my favourite miniatures from the range, the Hellions. So that's slightly disappointing because, as I said, I'm not going to add to this army, so I either can't use those models, or, which I'm sure I'll probably end up doing, I'll just proxy the Succumbus, is it called? What's it called? Funny name. What's he called? Yeah, Succumbus? Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to have to probably proxy the Succumbus, which I could probably do, just use one of the witches, or even my Homunculus, I could just proxy as one of those. So there's a way around it going forward, but I was thinking, well, for my first list, which I'm going to play, which will be a 1000 point list against Necrons, I was going to stick with the theme of my army, which is a Cabal, the Kazon Kabal. So yeah, I'm going to go for a Cabal detachment for my first army. And that brings me to a very good detachment ability, which I'm really liking, and that is, if you take a patrol detachment, it costs you 0 command points. So awesome, I'm liking that. We've also got the Weakling Skin ability, which basically means you can't include Drukhari and non-Drukhari Eldar units in the same detachment unless all of those units have the Ynnari keyword. So just bringing in or confirming the sort of Ynnari situation, I suppose. I mean, that doesn't really affect me. We've also got the Real Space Raid. So if you have 3 detachments from the 3 raiding forces, the Cabal, the Witch Cults and the Homunculus Coven, then you can take it as a Real Space Raid detachment. And that gives you some extra abilities as well. So, moving on, we have the Lords of Comera, which are like the diversion. So, effectively, you can upgrade one of your HQs. Like, for example, in my case, the Archon can be upgraded to a Master Archon, and then you have a list of extra abilities that you can take, including upgrading a warrior unit to Trueborn warriors, which I plan to do because it makes the ballistic skill 2 rather than 3. Pretty nice. Now I am talking here as if I really know the rules, but to be fair, I found this book incredibly complicated when I first looked. A little bit like all of the other codices, but maybe this time I had a different perspective because, well, when I looked at the Tyranid Codex, I was looking for rules changes, I was looking for the fact that the units have gone from different areas, like from HQ to elites. When I came to this codex, I wasn't looking for that at all. I was almost looking from a fresh point of view. And I have to say, I enjoyed learning this codex more than I did the Tyranid one or the Eldar one, where I was looking from someone who knew the codex reasonably well to someone who just doesn't know the codex at all. So obviously discovering those sub-faction things was disappointing, but I actually enjoyed reading all of this and getting to grips with it. And as always, of course, once you get used to it, it's no longer that complicated. So, yeah, the Cabals are next, and we've got the Cabal of the Black Heart and a Poison Tongue. Both are pretty good, especially if you're using warriors with sort of poison weapons. Particularly liked the Black Heart Agents of Vect, where it costs you 0 CPs, and then the first time your opponent uses a stratagem, apart from the command reroll, you can make that stratagem cost 1 more command point than it would normally be. I'm liking that, and of course it costs us nothing as well. The Poison Tongue is very good for increasing the poison weapons. You add 1 to your poison weapon ability. Very nice. I thought the Cabal of the Flayed Skull was probably one of the weakest ones. And I really liked Obsidian Rose as well. That had some pretty decent rules, again depending on which army you're playing. And then of course they've got other Cabals as well, so basically sort of custom abilities, which I did have a look at, and there's a couple here which sort of took my fancy as such, and my aim was to take something which is fairly competitive, because I am playing Richard, who is a pretty competitive player, so I want to have a chance on the table, but also I thought I wanted to go quite sort of thematic with my actual army. So first I looked at the colours of the armies, and I felt that the Obsidian Rose was the closest colour scheme to mine, and I actually quite liked the Obsidian Rose traits, but I didn't feel that maybe it suited the units which I was potentially going to put in the army so well. So I looked at custom traits, and I felt that the which one was it? Yeah, Deadly Deceivers was pretty good, which basically meant you could fall back and shoot. -1 to hit, but still you could fall back and shoot, so I seriously considered that. But overall, I think, especially for the list that I'm going to take, I'm probably going to start off with the Cabal of the Black Heart in terms of rules. That's going to be my base for that. So when you see my army, I will be using those traits. And then we have, of course, the traits for the Witch Cults. I think these are called obsessions. So these are like your dynasties, it's your obsessions. So you get your Witch Cults, and then the Covens. Let's get past those, and then they give you an example of the real space, which is pretty useful because that's quite complicated, but once you read that, it sort of makes sense. And then the stratagems in the book, of course, which I have to be honest with you, I haven't read the stratagems because the way I built my army was in a different way. I built my army around the obsessions and the units that I had, and then what I'll do is I'll select the stratagems I'm going to use for that army, which ones suit the army best. Whereas, you know, occasionally, maybe in the future, I might pick a stratagem that I really want to try out and build an army around, you know, some stratagems. So I haven't actually looked at the stratagems, so I can't really comment on them. But I'm sure there's some nice ones in there which I'll be able to sort of make full use of. And then, of course, we've got the chapter approved rules, which potentially are out of date if you're using the new chapter approved book, which I think they're changing some of these secondaries in the new upcoming one in June. But I did quite like Purge the Enemy, which is basically Purge the Vermin, so exactly the same as the Necron one. You score 3 victory points. Oh no, not that one. Okay, so it's actually the Battlefield Supremacy one called Herd the Prey, which is exactly the same as Purge the Vermin, so it's two victory points starting from turn 2 for each table quarter that your enemy isn't in. So I thought that was a pretty nice one because obviously it works well for Necrons. Whether it will work as well for this army, I don't know, but maybe I'll find out. And then you have the Warlord traits, again in 3 different boxes for the 3 different sort of sub-factions. Can I call them sub-factions? Some nice Warlord traits here. The Hatred Eternal looks pretty cool, where you can basically re-roll hits and wounds for your Warlord. I'm liking that. Obviously the Dark Eldar at the moment seem to be quite a close combat army, although not necessarily with the units I'm going to be taking because of the way, because of the models that I have, and it's quite an old school army, so I'm probably going to have more of a shooty element, but they seem to be pretty good in close combat as well. And of course then you've got the relics, there's a whole relic page, and then you have individual relics for the different like cabals and stuff there, so you've got your own relic and your own stratagems on those pages, which I'm liking the layouts for that, and that's definitely lacking in the Necron Codex. but I've noticed all the current ones seem to have that. Now the relics which sort of stand out to me would be the Helm of Spirit, which is an anti-psychic one, anti-psyker one, where if you successfully deny the witch, your opponent suffers the perils of the warp. It's pretty cool. Obviously it's going to be no good if I'm playing against Necrons, but I think overall that is a very good one. I'll have to select a different one for my game against Richard. And then we've got the Crusade rules, which I just happily skip past because I don't do Crusade. And then we come to the abilities. So just like my old codex, you've got Power from Pain, which is really good in the Cabal, which I'm taking, the Black Hearts one, because you treat the turn sort of one turn more than it is. So the powers, you've got turn 1 you get a 6+ invulnerable save, turn 2 you can charge and advance. That means on turn 1 I can charge and advance and I've got a 6+ invulnerable save. Then turn 3 you get +1 to hit against vehicles and monstrous creatures, and there's no -1 for heavy weapons in close combat. Turn 5, which will for me be turn 3, I'll have a 5+ invulnerable save, and then turn 5 you've got auto pass on morale, and you get double the wound count on units which degrade, so you count double the wounds for when you're looking at the stats. So some pretty decent stuff there. I'm liking those, and combat drugs are there as well. However, I'm not taking any units in my army that have combat drugs, so I haven't looked too closely at those, but they are there. And of course the poisoned weapon rule is still there, so wounding automatically on either a 4 or a 2 depending on the weapon. Pretty nice. And then you've got Blade Artists, which each time a model with this weapon makes a melee attack, an unmodified wound roll of a 6, you improve the armor characteristic by 1, so you improve the AP on a 6 to wound. Pretty nice. I'm liking that. Then we have Insensible to Pain. Each time a model in this unit would lose a wound, roll 1d6 on a 5+. That wound is not lost. It's quite nice. That's something I've missed actually, because I've written a lot of the special rules down on my army list, and I think I missed that one, so I'm going to put a little note in there. Yes, I've got my Necron instruction book. I'm going to go back to that. And then we've got the data sheets. Of course, all the data sheets there. Let's have a quick look at them and maybe some of the units that I've got, and I'll have a quick chat about some of my conversions. So the Archon, that was given to me by Aceface. You may know him from Twisted Dice. He gave me my Archon, which was very nice of him. As I said, I've got 2 homunculus units, 2 different characters, so 2 different models, sorry. I think one's older and one's a newer one. Then I don't have some of the special named characters, of course. Kabalite Warriors, I've got 20 of the really old ones, which are the ones that I really like because they inspired me with the Kazon Kabal because of their hairdo. And then I've got 10 of the newer ones. I don't know if there's even newer ones, the ones I've got, but I have 10 newer designed ones. Witches, I've got 30 witches, but of course I can't use those. I've got no racks. Court of Archon, don't have that. Don't even know what that is. Never seen that before. Is that a lizard head? He has a lizard head. Is that right? What is that all about? I'm sure they've got some cool fluff. Incubi, I don't have any of the models. Well, actually I do, because I was given some. But it was after I finished painting all of the miniatures, and as I said, I don't really want to add to the army, so I don't have them basically. Mandrake, I don't have. Grotesque, I have 8 Grotesque, but they are Homunculus Coven, so you might see them in another list when I do a Coven list in the future. I don't have Beastmaster, Clawed Fiends, Razor, Wing Flock, Kamari, don't know who that is, but I don't have those. Reavers, I don't have. Hellions, I do, but just a small unit of 5. Scourges, I have those. I have a big unit. I think I've got 9 Scourges. And then a Talos, and obviously there's the Kronos as well, and I have 1 of each. but my Kronos is actually converted from a Talos. So what I did is I used some green stuff, and I made some green stuff tentacles, and I just glued them on, and obviously changed the guns for tentacles effectively. Then the Ravager, and of course the Raider, which I have 4 miniatures in total. I've got one of the newer miniatures, and that is a Raider. And then I've got 3 of the old miniatures, the Ravager, and they're all converted, so I can have either Ravager or Raiders. And what I did is I had to put some little side sections on and magnetise them. They magnetise on and off, and I made those out of plastic card, and I put them in the oven so that I could bend them. There's a whole series of videos on me building my army and also painting the army, and I'll link you up to that video at the end of this one, and of course in the description below. So yeah, Ravagers and Raiders. Venoms, I have 3 Venoms. They're all converted from Eldar Vipers. But yeah, I've got 3 of those, and obviously those were a good unit back in 7th edition. Not quite sure how good they are now. Right, Razor Wings I don't have, Void Raven Bomber I don't have, and that's it. And then we come to the points level, which really confused me because I totally forgot that the points have all been changed in Chapter Approved. So I was using Battle Scribe and my usual Word document that I do, because I type everything out on Word document, and then I can get all the information that I want to remember on the document. And yeah, I got very confused. It's like, this is not right, what is going on? And then I realised that the new rules, the new points are in the Chapter Approved, so I got there in the end, but yeah, that confused me. And then of course you just go to the weapons profiles and the glossary and the reference sheet, and then you're at the back of the codex. Now also got the data cards as well, because they're really useful. Actually, to be fair, Richard bought these cards and the codex here because, well, we've been trying to improve the battle reports. We've been taking it in turns, buying the codices and cards for each of my armies. We're sort of just sharing these books and cards. Richard has the app with the code, so he can use that, and he can obviously take the book anytime that he wants to have a read and make an army list. So yeah, we're just trying to make the channel better. Hopefully you are enjoying what we are doing. If you are, let me know in the comments box below. And if you want to see more about my Dark Eldar Drukhari Army, then here is a playlist for you to check out, and here is the showcase video if you want to see my army in more detail.